welcome into another episode of the Inside Voice podcast. I'm Jess. I'm so glad that you are here. We like to start off with some good news, some exciting news. Oftentimes for me, it's like the nerdy news. And lately I've been on this kick of going through social media and finding things like these studies that confirm kind of what we've always known thanks to the Bible. So recently there was a study that came out relating how connection with other people starts to shape us. There have been a couple of pastors that I've heard in the past say, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. There's this idea that community and connection with others really shapes who we are and who we become in life. And like neuroscience is totally backing that up. So they're observing something. This is from the Christian Psych NP. It's from a doctor. She's very smart. But I love this because she shares a lot of stuff like this on social media. Human beings don't just spend time together. Over time, they begin to align with one another. She also talked about clocks that like use a pendulum that swings back and forth. If you put enough clocks together in a room, I'm having visions of Hook right now, that Robin Williams movie. But if you put enough clocks together in a room and they're swinging back and forth, eventually they will start to swing back and forth together. Like they pick up on each other's time, which is pretty cool. But this study said that research in neuroscience and psychology describes this as interpersonal synchrony. In close interaction, people begin to show alignment in attention, behavior, emotional responses, and in certain contexts. Patterns of brain activity also start to align with one another. This is measurable and it has been validated in science. And then she shared all these scriptures that kind of confirm this. Also that, said it first. Bad company corrupts good character. That's from 1 Corinthians. Whoever walks with the wise becomes wise. That's from Proverbs. Blessed is the man who does not walk, stand, or sit in the way of sinners. That's from Psalms. But like God created us first and foremost to be in connection with him. And that's like a whole nother study that's coming out with how we receive consciousness. We don't create it in our minds. So that's that connection with God. But he also created us to connect with one another as well. And we need to be really cognizant of the people that we're connecting with. Because ultimately, what do they say? Like the 5 people that you're closest to are the people that you really start to act like and behave like and think like and talk like. There are so many of those videos on social media of best friends, like saying the same thing at the same time, having similar mannerisms at the same time, and they're catching it on video and sharing it. Even one of my good friends, one of my best friends from college, my workout buddy, even though we don't live in the same city, we still pick up on each other's mannerisms in the videos that we send to each other. And we had a girls' weekend away a couple of weeks ago, and so many moments we would say the same thing or have the same reaction to something. And it was just like, oh my gosh, we are connected. That's just so crazy, right? That's a little bit of what we're going to talk about today as well. We're in a series about how social media is ruining your life. Last week, we talked about time, how social media and screens in general, whether it's streaming services or video games, they really have a way of just stealing your time. You don't even realize how much time you're spending on those platforms until you've lost it. And I shared with you an interesting representation of that with the dots from who was it? Dean Ambrosi, I believe was his name. I gotta look back at my notes. Dino Ambrosi was the guy that did the dots. But go back and listen to that. Today, I want to talk about how social media is ruining your life because it's stealing connection. It is stealing true community. Now I know what you're thinking right now. You're already arguing with me in your head. You're already skipping past a couple of the next couple of sentences I'm going to say because you're like, no, Jess, you've got it all wrong. Social media is not stealing community. It's giving us community. I'm connected with so many people. I have so many followers. I message people or comment on things, or I'm in these community groups or pages on social media that I would have never been in had it not been for social media. Yes. And Yes, social media is great for that. And with this whole entire series, I encourage you to take it with a grain of salt. I do realize social media is necessary in a lot of people's lives, is necessary in a lot of aspects of everyone's life, for that connection, keeping up with people. I've got a high school reunion coming up. Like, we are connecting on social media so that way we can plan properly and get the word out, like it's valuable. People run businesses on social media. People are creating community and creating fan pages, or creating, garden clubs or book clubs and stuff, and having these wonderful experiences with people all over the globe. I get all of that. I really, really do. But what I want to say is, despite the fact of that all this good can come from social media, all this good can come from this community online, we're still not seeing all the positive results that we could from social media. So maybe this isn't like a complete get off of it, abstain from it, like let's go cold turkey and cut it out of our lives. But maybe this series is about really analyzing how we're using social media, how we're consuming social media, because that's really what we've become. We've become consumers. It used to be like, well, I want to have my top 8 on MySpace and like see what my friends are up to when we're not at school. And now it's turned into, this is how I entertain myself. This is how I'm literally spending my free time. It's just watching strangers on the internet. We've just kind of turned it into something that, it is what it is. It's become what it's become. And, it's become a great place for people to make money and for people to have a business and feel like there's a support group for them. But just like we talked about with good things, they can become detrimental if used or abused or taken in excess. You know what I mean? I've shared with you before when I was a kid. I was at my grandmother's house one summer and she had strawberries, and I ate every single strawberry she had, and she had a lot. I felt fine. Again, strawberries, they're good for you, right? They're a fruit, they're vitamin C, they fix the need for sugar without being, sugar, you know what I mean? But like, I still broke out in a rash because I ate way too many strawberries. And my body was like, we're not interested in this. Unsubscribe. Let's not do this again. And it's not that I'm allergic to strawberries, but like the amount that I ate, and I'm telling you, it was an ungodly amount. That's what made it a bad thing. So again, social media can be good, but it can also be something that removes things from your life that are good. They can be something that hinders, overshadows, or affects beautiful things like community and connection. And there's research to prove this. Again, social media, in its name, social, is supposed to make us more social. It's supposed to allow us to connect with more people, to have a broader community, if you will. And yet, despite the fact that it's supposed to be social and it's supposed to create these connections, we are lonelier than ever before. Social media is falsifying a connection. It's making us feel like we're more connected than we actually are. I look at the study that was done in 2023. I found this from NIH. It linked time spent on social media with levels of loneliness. And basically what it concluded is the more time that you spend scrolling on social media, consuming social media, wasting your time on social media, the higher your levels of loneliness are going to be. And again, this is supposed to be something that makes us feel more connected. This study was done not just in America, not just in the biggest cities. It was done across the board in multiple countries. It took into account young people, older people. It took into account males and females. Didn't matter if you were married or single or dating, or if you had kids or if you didn't have kids, if you were a dog person, cat person, whatever. It was a wide range of people across the globe. And they found that the more time that you spent on social media, the more lonely you were, the more likely somebody was to say that they were lonely. And I'm telling you, it's not getting any better. You look at it across generations, same, different studies done on this as well. Let's look at the generation Gen X. So that's, I'm a millennial. Gen X is the generation above me, my parents. 30% report being lonely, say that they have felt loneliness in their life, just 30%. Then you get into millennials, my generation. We remember the world before the internet. We remember being bored. Oh my gosh, when is the last time the world has been bored? You know what I mean? We remember the world before cell phones and smartphones. And I remember my mom having a pager, and like she only used the pager in emergency situations, and like only used the cell phone if it was a real emergency. This like flip phone thing that she would pull out of her pocket. And like I have friends that their parents worked in businesses where they carried their phone with them, and it was literally like a briefcase that they had to carry. That's the world that we grew up with, our childhood. You know what I mean? Like it was before MySpace. It was before AOL. Like I remember when AOL became a thing and instant messaging. Sorry, I'm just like reliving the good old days. My generation, knowing what the world was like before screens were readily available, even my generation, 30 to 75% say that they either often feel lonely or always feel lonely. And I have a sneaking suspicion the ones that feel like they are always lonely probably very fondly remember the days before the internet. And like they miss those days because this world looks so completely different than that world. And then you've got this next generation underneath mine, millennials, you've got Gen Z. Gen Z, they were weaned on the internet, like they basically had a smartphone before they had a pacifier. They call Gen Z the iPad generation because, I'm not trying to be offensive. Like this is just stuff that I've seen on the internet. They were raised on iPads. Like they grew up, their childhood was spent on an iPad. Not trying to come down on anybody with that, but it's also the generation that I think has had more access to social media and more access at an earlier age than any other generation. 61 to 80% of Gen Z report not just feeling lonely often, but consistently feeling lonely. So notice we went from 30% might feel lonely to, 30 to 75% saying, yeah, often I feel lonely, to consistently feeling lonely. And we're talking 61 to 80% of that generation feeling that way. Obviously, something is wrong here. The thing that is supposed to make us more connected is actually making us feel more isolated. And we can get into things like, comparison, feeling less than because you're comparing yourself to everybody on social media. But also I think like there's less human connection when there's a screen barrier. You know what I mean? Like I can sit across the table from somebody and I can pick up on body language and I can pick up on energy. There's been studies of neuroscience about how your energy can affect somebody else's energy. Like that is an actual thing. As humans, we have this beautiful way of connecting with one another that we can feed off of each other's energy, we can read each other's energy, and we have an effect on each other's energy, good or bad, hopefully good. But when there's a screen there, it takes away that connection. There's enough of a distance there. There's enough of a wall or a barrier there that we don't feel the same connection with that person that we would sitting across the table from them or being in the same room with them. We feel that energy as well. And honestly, our as humans, we are starved for that connection. Like we talked about with that study with neuroscience, like we feed off of each other because we were meant to connect with one another. But that goes back to creation. God created us first and foremost to be connected with him. He created us in his image. Our one thing is to love and be connected to him. He is our creator. Like we don't exist without him. We don't exist outside of him. You know what I mean? We lose out on who we are as at our core if we're not connected to the creator. And secondly, we were meant to connect to others. God made Adam, saw that Adam shouldn't be lonely, despite the fact he didn't have a cell phone, smartphone. He wasn't like, hitting up Instagram being like, well, I'm my only friend. It's like Tom on MySpace back in the day. And he was everybody's friend. He's like the digital Adam. But Adam was alone. Yeah, he walked with God in the garden, but there were no other humans on earth. And so God made Eve and, took a rib from Adam to make Eve. See, there's a connection there, And so since day one, we have always been meant to have human interaction with one another. And there's phrases that we throw out left and right. If you're raising kids, you're like, oh, it takes a village. If you are into some sort of hobby like golf or fishing or something, or if you like painting or pottery or something like that, you have your tribe of people that are also into that. My aunt, her really good friends from high school that she's really connected with, that's her tribe. That's just, there's a reason why we say those things, right? It takes a village, or I need to find my tribe. And that's because as humans, we're meant to be connected. And long before all this technology started coming in, that's all you had was your village, was your tribe, was your family. It was your immediate community that you were connected to. Those were the people that you spent your entire life with. That was it. Hopefully it was a good one. Hopefully you loved your family. But travel was limited. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to load up the car and go to grandma's house for Christmas. It was like, no, we'll just pack up our entire home and we'll just go to grandma and we'll be there for the next 5 years, and we have to travel hundreds of miles to be where grandma is, or, whatever. And then technology and this ability to travel more easily really started changing things, right? Suddenly you could go to the next village over. You could explore a new part of land or a new part of the world, by going over an ocean. Not everybody could go over an ocean back in the day. You know what I mean? So it's like the world started getting wider because you started, engaging with more people across, regions and countries and continents. But the connection kind of got smaller in a sense, because you're interacting with more people. And I don't know about you, but like, I don't have the bandwidth to go deep with 1,000 people. I go deep with like a handful of people, like people that I really know and trust and love and can be vulnerable with. But like, that's it, So more doesn't always mean like quantity doesn't always mean quality of those friendships. And then there's a rise in technology that comes around. We start to see not just people traveling more often and going from city to city or state to state, but we start to see people being able to communicate with one another on the phone. So no longer do you have to, pack a bag and hop on a donkey to go see your girlfriends on girls' night, and it's going to take you a week to get there. It's like, hey, we can just call each other up and we can talk about our day, And as exciting as that was and how wonderful that technology is, it's like suddenly the telephone meant we didn't have to meet in person anymore. And again, that made it so we could communicate more often, but it also made it a lot easier for us to not pick up the phone. Now it's ringing, not really feeling like talking to anybody right now. So I just don't answer the phone. And then the answering machine comes in, and then you don't even have to pick up the phone or call this person back to know what they wanted. They just leave you a message, and then you can just listen to the message, and you never had to actually speak with them. And then it's like that system of the phone and answering machines turns into the cell phone and the voicemail. And then that turns into texting, and then that turns into voice messaging or whatever. And that turns into, well, now I've got social media and the internet and I can communicate that way. And then that turns into, well, now that social media and that internet is in my back pocket. So it's like we have all of these avenues to communicate with one another and connect with one another, but the need to do it drops because we use convenience as an excuse of like, oh, I can call him anytime. I'll call him later. But like back in the day, it was like, no, you valued the conversations you had with people because you didn't know when you were going to talk to them again. You valued the one-on-one interaction that you had with people because A, it was either all you had, or B, that time you had with them was going to be limited because then you had to load up the carriage and travel 700 miles just to get back home, and your only correspondence was going to be a letter. Now, again, I want to pause here because, again, technology has been wonderful. Technology has allowed us to connect with people across the globe. Technology has allowed us to to communicate with astronauts in space as they're going around the moon, and they're having these like out of body experiences, and they're experiencing God in a whole new way because of what they're seeing in space. Like, it's incredible. And, my husband was in the military for a long time, and I've been on bases and with military families. Like, I get the idea of technology being a wonderful way for you to stay connected with your spouse when they're on the other side of the globe and they're deployed for a year. I get the value of that. I get the value of being able to jump on a plane and go see that person if you need to, or go visit family. Like, I'm not knocking technology at all. I'm just saying that the way that we use it can sometimes make it feel like we don't have to use it, And I've been on those phone calls and those FaceTimes with a spouse or a friend or a loved one that is deployed or living in another city or has moved away, and they're working this other job, or they're working in a position where they don't get to communicate very often on the phone. And I know how quiet it is once you hang up that phone. I get all of that. So yes, technology is a beautiful blessing. Being able to FaceTime somebody is a beautiful thing. Being able to text somebody just, on the daily, or, just a little quick little like, hey, thinking about you. Like, it's wonderful. It's beautiful. And even social media, again, we've talked about it. It's beautiful and it's wonderful, and it allows you to create such a wonderful community. Like, I hope to do that with this podcast. I hope that the community is already rolling, the Inside Voice podcast community, the IVPs. Yeah. Like, I want all of that. But again, we crave real human connection. And if that connection never comes off the screen into the real world, what kind of connection is that? Even with my girlfriends that live in other cities, we got to see each other, I've got friends from college that we get together every single year and do a girls' trip. That's meaningful. Because yes, we can have a FaceTime call once a month and catch up, but being in each other's presence, soaking up each other's energy is so valuable, and it can't be replaced. Being able to hug their necks and grab their hands when we're laughing about something, like, that's a connection that we need as humans. It's a must, you know what I mean? And I think that's another reason why the holidays are so special, because you're getting together with family that maybe you don't see normally throughout the year, but you see them at Christmas. You get to feel their energy, hold their hands, hug them, snuggle on their kids, like just be in their presence. You cannot replace that with a screen. And oftentimes I feel like when we have too many connections, it's like we have no connection at all. Like, let's not even talk about the people that are closest to us, because yes, that should always be a priority for us to stay connected with those people, see them in person as much as we can, because life is short and we don't get all the time that we want with them. But people are so worried about followers. They're so worried about popularity on social media. That's not real connection. And quite frankly, that's not validation. How many people do you follow on social media? Do you engage with them regularly? Do you even see their content regularly? Do you even see what they're up to on a regular basis? Now, there may be people that you engage enough with them that Instagram's like, oh, you care about this person. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that you see their stuff on your feed on the regular. But I'm going to tell you right now, there's a bunch of people that I follow on social media. I don't see their stuff unless I go seek it out. So in reality, I'm not really connected to that person. And then you think about like celebrities and stuff, definitely not connected to those people. All the country artists that I follow, Lainey Wilson, Luke Combs, Morgan Wallen, I follow them for my job, keeping up with their lives for my job. But I'm telling you, like, there's times when, yeah, I've interviewed Lainey Wilson in person. I've interviewed Jelly Roll in person. I've talked to these people one-on-one, face-to-face, probably as close as I am to you right now on the other side of this screen if you're watching on YouTube. And like, I don't know them. They don't know me. But again, because I follow them on social media, I feel like I know them. I feel like we're connected. You see how social media gives you this false sense of connection? No wonder we feel lonely. Because these people are not actually our friends. They're just people we follow. These people are not actually invested in us. They're just selling us a product or creating a video that might make us laugh. And again, I'm not knocking anybody for making a living on social media. I'm not knocking anybody for having a business on social media or even having a huge following on social media. I'm just saying that it's a poor excuse for the real human connection that we actually need in our life. I even think about Jesus in the Bible. He had multitudes following him. You think about the feeding of the 5,000, back in the day, they would have counted like only the men, not the women and the children. They certainly wouldn't have counted the children, because back in those days, like, children were not the treasures and angels that they are today. So theologians have researched and said, there was probably a lot more than 5,000 people that Jesus fed. But beyond him feeding them, that just shows you like how many people were coming to hear Jesus speak, how many people were crowding in and trying to get to him and, hear his teachings or have him do a miracle or have them heal him. Like, there were so many people that were just fawning all over him. Like, if he had a social media account, he would have billions of followers. But again, Jesus, as much as he had all those followers, he had 12 people that he was really investing in, the apostles. He was training them up to carry the torch after he was gone. He was training them up to start planting the churches and start spreading the gospel long after he was gone. Jesus' ministry was only 3 years, for crying out loud, before he was crucified. He needed people to carry on what he was bringing to the world, right? But even of that 12, he would draw away from the 12 with just 3 other people, Peter, James, and John. Like, those were like the ones that he was very close to. He was very intimate with. He was very, I think, raw and vulnerable with. Even in the moments before he was crucified, he was in the garden. Peter, James, and John were with him, and the other disciples were like outside of the garden. He brought his like tight-knit fellas with him to those places. And even after that, he was still drawing away on his own to connect with the Father. So that just shows us, like, we are, number one, we are supposed to be connected to God. Number two, we are supposed to be connected to very few people that we really, really do life with. We really, really are in communion with, that we are vulnerable with, that we can tear down the walls with. And then after that, we can have friends and we can have acquaintances and we can have followers on social media. But if we're not connected to the things that matter, God and the most important people in our lives, if we're not physically connected with them, emotionally connected with them, being in their physical space with them, like, there's a problem. We're missing something. And that's where the loneliness really starts to set in. So I want to encourage you to remember that too many connections can lead to feeling lonely, because in this world of social media, too many followers, too many connections, too many comments, too many likes means too many opinions. And then that means too many people to please. And that means too many eyes to perform in front of. That means too many haters that are going to come down on you when you make a mistake or you fall. You do a podcast about how awful social media is, and then all of a sudden the haters start coming in. The comparison is just way too high. And I think we see this, obviously we see it in the research with people that, saying that they're lonely, even though we have these apps and things that are supposed to make us more connected and are supposed to make us feel less lonely. But we see it with people that have a ton of followers. We see it with people that have, quote unquote, huge communities, right? They feel empty inside. They feel so much pressure to perform in front of those eyeballs and to consistently put out content. And it becomes too much. It leads to burnout. It leads to wanting to walk away completely. It leads to things that are more detrimental. We've seen people that have actually taken their own lives because it was too much for them, too much pressure. Like I said, too many opinions, too many people to please, too much, just way too much of superficial connections. And we put such a high value on follower counts and like counts and comment counts and reshare counts and DM counts and all sorts of stuff. But it's not doing anything for us. What is it really adding to our life if it's just leading us to this place of being extremely unhealthy and mentally unwell? We need people where we can actually be real with them. We need real connection. And I'm telling you right now, social media, for all the wonderful things that it can do, and technology in general, FaceTime, calling, texting, for all the wonderful things that it can do, it is a sorry excuse for the real thing. It is a counterfeit, I think is a better way to put it. It is a counterfeit for the real thing, for the real connection. So to sum this up, how do we fix this? Jess, you've come down hard on us. Jess, you've made us feel like we're terrible people if we're on social media, or if we are chasing engagement. If we are, let me just say this. I chase engagement every single day. My job, I'm chasing engagement. I've told you this. Like, we want people to connect. We want to create a country music community. We are a fan base of country. Like, we are creating everything that I'm talking about right now. Like, we are getting people engaged with one another. Like, I get it. I do that for a living. I'm trying to do that with this podcast and with, social media, because there's benefits to it, right? But it's not the end all be all. So I'm not trying to make you feel awful. I'm not saying that if you're running a business on social media, stop. I'm just saying have your priorities in check. Connect with real people. Be vulnerable with real people. Social media, I think, sometimes allows us to get away with being surface level with people, agreeable with people. But even in that study that I told you about at the beginning of the podcast of aligning with one another, like, true connection with people means that you're willing to have conflict with people. You're willing to disagree. You're willing to call somebody out on something. You're willing to, be the iron that sharpens their iron. That's what true connection is. That's what real community is. That's what real love is, So have the priorities in place, limit the time that you're on social media, like we talked about last week, but also limit the energy that you're giving it. It's not that serious. It's one thing that I'm learning as I'm getting older. There's not as many, it's my dog. There's not as many rules as I thought there was going to be. There's also like life is not that serious. Like, it's not. The things that we sweat over and stress out and lose sleep over, like, again, there are things that matter in this world, but a lot of things, like how many followers you have on social media, not that important. Unless you're running a business. Okay. Walk it back, Jess, walk it back. The fix here, what we're trying to do here, again, is we're trying to limit how much energy and attention we're giving social media. We've got to set healthy boundaries for ourselves. I would recommend, rather than DMing somebody, maybe send them a text message. That's a little more personal. Rather than sending a text message, maybe you call that person. Again, it's a little more personal. Maybe rather than calling that person, you meet with that person if possible. Go out to lunch, go out to coffee, go for a walk, plan a girls' trip, get a weekend away with your best friend, plan time away with your spouse without the kids. You need that connection. I think also, go deep with people. Don't be afraid to peel back a layer with somebody. And if somebody is willing to peel back a layer, be the person that is safe for them. Be the person that allows them to peel back that layer without feeling like it's going to come back to bite them in the long run. It's okay for you to show up for somebody and not gossip around behind their back. It's okay for you to hear hard things from somebody and then not go run your mouth about it on social media under the guise of well, I just really care about them. You can be a gatekeeper for people. You can be a safe place for them to share things with and know that they're not going to have it come back to bite them in the long run, if somebody's being vulnerable, be vulnerable with them, sit with them in what they're going through, be human with them, allow them to find rest and peace and a place of trust in you. I think we're lacking that, because again, social media doesn't foster those types of connections. So I think those are the things that we can do, is just remember that humans are human. We're all fallible. We all have problems. We all have issues. We all need each other. So take the connections that you've got online and try to bring them into the real world, to have meaningful relationships with people, to have meaningful connections with people that when social media goes away, when AI implodes and it's no longer a thing, I don't know, maybe that's the future we're headed to, but be the type of person to somebody else and connect with people in a way that If all of this got stripped away from us tomorrow, you would still have people to fall back on. You would still have people who've got your back, who care about you, who love you, and are going to be with you on this entire journey called life. I think that's one of the reasons why we want a spouse. We want a partner. We want somebody to do life with. It's a wonderful thing to find a spouse that you can do life with. It's also a wonderful thing to find friends that you can do life with, family members that you can truly do life with. Again, social media and technology can help connect, can help, expand to more people that maybe you can have a wonderful connection with, but it's not the end all be all. We need real human connection. Did I lecture you enough on this? Okay, because we're not done. Coming up next week, another part of our series of how social media is ruining your life. I'm not going to give you the topic because I don't want to give you an out to not listen. So I'll see you next week.